Hey guys, good evening. Okay, so I hope I'm pretty much audible as well as visible. Hello Shubham, I hope you're doing well. So let's let's wait for a minute or two. We can start. Just setting a few things here, guys. Okay, so okay, cool. So a very warm welcome to everybody who is part of our live chat today. So as always, it's pretty much a live session. So we are going to discuss about another very interesting topic in the entire problem statement, like an ecosystem of my data science journey. Problem statement. We have been talking about problem statement, like solving a business problem now and then in data science. But the major question is how exactly this problem statement gets identified in data science. Who tells you this? Okay, this is the problem statement you have to solve. So a problem statement in itself a problem. I hope you're getting my point, right? So identifying the right question or a problem statement which I'm supposed to solve to help a business, it's also a tricky thing. So today's agenda is primarily going to be focused around the problem statements, how a problem statement is defined, what do we need in a problem statement, and what distinguishes a problem statement with one another, right? So we are going to be discussing briefly about my problem statements. So that is going to be the agenda for our today's discussion. So we'll get started on that. But as always, it's pretty much a live discussion, guys. Please feel free to reach out. I am monitoring the chat. So if any questions, anything which comes up, so I'll try to take up that accordingly when it comes. Okay. Cool. I think we are good to start. Before starting, as always, you know, my name is Arpit Jain. And data science is my passion, guys. I really like things about data science, and my personal interest is solving the data science problem into multiple different sectors, well versed with the data science technologies. Also, along with that, I'm a motivational speaker. So I do talk to students regarding their careers, placements, and whatnot. So even in that regard, if you have any specific question which you want to ask, so please feel free to reach out, guys. Always happy to help. Okay, so now let's move towards the main agenda for our today's class, which is problem statement. So we will be understanding what exactly do we mean by a problem statement, right? So when I say a problem statement, what comes to your mind? We say that, yeah, I'm trying to find out, I'm trying to help a bank to identify the people who are going to default the loan EMI payments. Yes, one potential problem statement. So this problem statement is only valid for a smaller ecosystem where I have a bank, and for that bank I'm only responsible for finding out fraud cases or the potential defaulters in that case. So the problem statement which I'm trying to solve here is subjective to a bank. Or we have also seen some other use cases where we were trying to understand about Netflix the other day. So what was the problem statement? The problem statement was what should be the recommendation, what should be the potential recommendation Netflix should give to respective users depending on XYZ factors, whatnot. Again, a problem statement. Think about from a healthcare industry, I talk from an AI ML technique, whether the person is having cancer or not. Yes, one potential objective statement which I'm trying to solve. Or think about from a manufacturing industry, I'm saying that, okay, a particular machinery, I have set of machines which are trying to solve a business problem, which are trying to, do the manufacturing job for me. So from that, I'm trying to understand which of the machines has the highest probability of failure in such and such time period. Or think about from a supply chain industry or a logistics industry. I have like 20 or thousands or hundreds of fleets of truck, logistics support going from place A to place B. What is the most optimized route I should take? Think about from an inventory perspective. I'm producing something and I have to keep on storing it in my warehouse. What should be my optimized strategies to store the inventory units in my warehouse? So respective to particular industry, a problem statement changes. I hope everybody will agree to me on this, right? So a problem statement is very specific to industry. That is something which we have to always keep in mind. So identifying a right problem statement, we have to first understand what is my pain point, what is my core objective, what are we expected to help the business on, and that business definitely would be subjective to respective industries. I cannot be looking at finding out logistic support for a maybe a telecom industry. Subjective, it is very subjective. So whatever problem statement, whatever business pain point I'm trying to work on, that becomes my problem statement. So that is what primarily the agenda would be for today, and we will discuss about what all prominent things we need to identify this problem statement. So think broadly in this perspective. When we start working on some problem state, when we start working on any project, for example, so by that time, a problem statement is already coined. A problem statement already exists the moment you start working into a project. But the problem statement identification is even, I would say, a pre-project phase where people like us or the business analyst, we go and talk to the clients, we understand the business, we talk to the stakeholders, and we try to understand first what exactly their pain point is. A pain point could anything like would be like, for example, I'm trying to work on with a bank, and bank financial statements says that bank faces a loss of $20 million every quarter for the past 6-8 months, right? So bank faces a loss of XYZ for past continuously 6-8 months. So this is the pain point. But how did we come across saying that, okay, this pain point refers to the losses encountered by the default payments? Where your industry level expertise, your technical expertise, your availability of information, a lot of things comes into picture. So even before identifying a problem statement, even before identifying a true root cause or solving a business problem, we have to first understand from the client, what is my pain point? That is something which is very much important. And that is exactly today we'll be talking about what all different things you need as an industry expert in data science to identify what could be a potential problem statement which can be solved by the respective data science professionals. Okay, so that is what we're going to look at. And obviously in this case, industry is going to make a very prominent role here. We talk about respective domain level problems. So for example, we talked about, say, healthcare industry. It has its own subjective problems. it has its own subjective problems. So likewise, whatever the industry is, whatever my field is, I will have a respective pain points for each of these industries, whatever I'm working with. And yes, while understanding these pain points, you have to always keep in mind how you can relate a pain point, a problematic area, and converge it back to a problem statement which a data science professional can solve based on some data. And obviously, when I have understood, when I'm trying to coin a problem statement, I need to always think about my data as well. So the moment I have a problem statement, or the moment I have a pain point in a healthcare industry, I have to always understand, okay, if the problem statement is whatever XYZ, if I have the respective information for that, or is it just a problem statement which I really cannot materialize on? So yes, along with industries, the data also plays a very crucial role in identifying a problem statement. So let's go in detail about it, guys. Let's understand each of these one by one. So before even starting, as always, we're going to go towards a very beautiful saying. So a consumer data will be the biggest differentiator in the next 2 to 3 years. And whoever unlocks the realms of data and uses it strategically will win. Again, a very famous proverb. So now we are going to look at consumer data where we have the information of the behaviors, the day-to-day patterns of my consumer. And I'm making it more personalized in that way. So the moment I have a respective behavior level information from respective users and the consumers, that is going to play a very big differentiator in the next 2 to 3 years, because now we understand the behavior, the pattern, the usages, the consumption of my services by respective users. So consumer A or the user A might be more inclined towards product A. I cannot sell a product to consumer A which is far off from the characteristics of product A. I cannot sell a product Z to product A to consumer A. You getting it? So I need to understand, I need to be very specific. So we always talk about the marketing campaigns, we always talk about the strategies where instead of doing a bulk marketing, like in the earlier days, you might have seen a lot of emailers used to come, and even in these days it is still coming. But instead of doing a mass level marketing, like everybody is getting the similar emails, similar messages, now I am going to get focused on personal level details. So you are getting a customized offer on your phone for any service what you are using. Suppose you are a very prominent Ola or Uber user, you'll start getting some messages respectively for their offers, which might not be applicable for another user. At the same time, if you are a very frequent user of online food orderings, you will get respective promotions and the offers which is very subjective to you, not for others. Have you ever imagined how it is happening? That is all because of the consumer behavioral data which is getting tracked in the background. And that is going to play a very, very, very crucial role in the coming future. Biggest differentiator in the next 2 to 3 years. And whatever industry, it is subjective to every single industry, whether it is a healthcare industry or a telecom or a marketing or a business or airline industry, whatever it is, whichever industry is going to use the respective strategies to unleash the informations within the data, definitely that's going to be a win-win situation for them. That is where we have to always understand now the industry is moving from a mass marketing to a personalized marketing. We're talking about personalization of my respective requests. Right? So coming back to our agenda for today, which is the problem statement. So let's try to understand this problem statement part. So in its simplest form, a problem statement defines the pain point you hope to solve or the impact you hope to make with your work. And this statement should be clear, concise, and define a measurable outcome. Very crucial few points are mentioned here. So in a very simplest form, what a problem statement is, as I've said, it is basically going to define the pain point which I'm trying to or hoping to solve, or with which I'm trying to make an impact with my work. And as I've said, this problem statement, the pain point, could be anything. It could be a simple plain English sentence saying that I'm not able to generate some revenues. And that's going to be the pain point for every single online merchandise store, that my revenues are not that substantial. For example, this is a pain point, right? But for this pain point, revenues are not getting generated. There could be multiple problem statements which I can solve to rectify this pain point. I can talk about what look towards the selling patterns of my respective products, look towards defaults, look towards the respective the input costs which I'm making, the payments which I'm making. So lot of different problem statements which can still be solved for a single pain point. So my prime objective as a technical supervisor here would be to first understand the pain point, and the problem statement is going to revolve around the pain point in the hope of solving that or clearing out that pain point. And the problem statement which I'm going to define basically to address that pain point should be very clear. When I say clear, it should be understandable even by the layman, right? So anybody should be able to clearly understand. It's not only understood by the techie, the data science guys, but also should be clearly understood by every single person. The problem statement should be as clear as possible, like identifying the fraud payments which is happening on the EMIs. Pretty clear? So we always talk about writing the very clear problem statements, which is identifying or addressing the problem statements or the pain point which I'm trying to work on. The next is concise. So the statement here is basically clear. Second is concise. We always say that once the problem statement is clear, it should also be pretty much concise. I cannot write a 10-pager problem statement. It should be compact. When I say I'm trying to find out the bank frauds who are going to make the default payments, clear and concise, right? And also it should define a measurable outcome. I should be able to measure the outcome which is coming up here. So I'm saying that if I need to find out the people who are going to make the default, so basically I have a measurable outcome. I can list down those people and I can actually cross verify whether they have made the default payments or whether they have actually done the frauds or not. I have a measurable outcome in hand. It's pretty much a tangible result. So the statement should be clear, concise, and also define a measurable outcome. So ultimately, the main thing is it should answer the question, what is the problem that you are trying to solve? So all of this, the crux of the problem statement is nothing but what exactly is the problem that we are trying to solve. And this problem should be directly relevant to the business you are involved with. I mean, how does it make sense if I'm trying to look at whether Virat Kohli will hit a half century in the upcoming match if I'm in the healthcare industry and looking for a person who's having cancer or not? How does that matter? Right? Completely irrelevant part. So I'm trying to understand, if I am in a particular industry, how a business problem is going to directly affect the business and should be able to address the pain point a particular industry is facing. Right? Any questions, guys? Anything which you are not able to understand? And guys, very honestly, this problem statement is an iterative process. I cannot just jump in and say that, okay, solve this. No, problem statement itself is an iterative process, and there's a method behind that. There's a lot of reasoning which happens. There are a lot of prerequisites which are there, which we have to keep in mind, understanding and coining the problem statement. So we're going to be reading towards that. I hope that makes sense. Any questions, guys? Anyone from this point? Apologies, my throat is a little bad today, so just having the warm water. Okay, so moving ahead then, as always, please feel free to reach out for the questions. I'm more than happy to answer that. Okay, so the next important part is now, when I say a problem statement is an iterative process, what do we mean by that? I mean, what iteration is happening in the background? What are we looking at? So we may have a potential problem statement in mind right now, but progressing through the following steps may help you refine it as you gather more information. So yes, by default, for example, when I say I'm facing a revenue loss in my bank for the past subsequent few months, I do have an ad hoc problem statement in mind, which is like, maybe I should look for the default which is happening around, right? Yeah, so that could be one potential problem statement which is there in my mind right now. But we have to also understand that once we're trying to solve this part, how are we expected to refine my problem statement? This might not be the only pain point. So the pain point is my revenue generation. But is it always practical that only by having the frauds identified, I'm going to clear out my revenue issues? No. So with iterative process, with more discussions, with more approach, we are going to refine and gather and clear out the details and ultimately refine my problem statement. Hey, Ayush, speak in Hindi. कर सकते हैं, but this is more of a generic class, Ayush, so that people from all the gentry should be able to understand. So apologies, I cannot completely switch to Hindi here, but कोशिश करूंगा कुछ और explain करने की हिंदी में. If you have anything specific, you can ask me that. But let's still keep it as in English. अगर आपको कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है तो please let me know. I can quickly explain it to you in Hindi. But please pardon me for that. So we'll stick with English as a general platform for the videos. I hope that that's okay with you. But अगर आपको कुछ नहीं समझ में आ रहा है, कुछ स्पेसिफिक है जो आप मुझसे पूछना चाहते हो, प्लीज आप पूछ लीजिए, so we can talk on that. Okay. चलो, moving ahead. So now, when I say a problem statement, right? So problem statement we have already understood. So basically, it's nothing but at the end a pain point which I'm trying to solve for my industry, right? So we have understood that, and the pain point could be very subjective to individual industries. So now, when I'm trying to coin out this, so a problem statement is something which is definitely very much clearly defined. So for this, objective should be very, very, very clear. What exactly I'm going to look at, that is what my main motto is. If you also remember, it is quite relatable with your artificial intelligence prime theory as well. So when I say artificial intelligence, it's of two types. I have told you, strong AI and the weak AI. And if you remember, I told you for the weak AI, we are primarily focused towards one problem statement. So we are only trying to solve one problem at one time. That's where machine learning and all comes into picture, right? And that is where this problem statement, the moment I'm trying to solve here, it should be clearly defined. What is my prime objective, right? And the process needs solving an actual problem that needs the proper solution. And post that, it should be possible to solve with the resources at your disposal. Very important. I cannot just suppose that I am working for a bank. Imagine that I'm working for a bank, and surprisingly, I want to solve a problem statement stating that whether a person XYZ which is coming to the hospital, whether he is having any disease or not. How is it relevant? I don't have the respective resources for that problem statement to be solved. I'm working with a bank, so I might have the financial level information, I might have the user transaction level information, but I do not have a hospital record with a history of illness for any person, right? So it is also very important to understand whatever problem statement you are trying to solve, and even in the respective industries. For example, suppose I am from the bank, every person in the bank will not have access to every single information. No. Being a teller, I might not have information from the management side. Being a management guy, I might not have an information on something else. Being from an IT side, I might not have an information from the transactions which are happening. So I need to understand based on which industry, based on what guys, I think I got lost. I got disconnected for a minute. Apologies for that. I think I got disconnected for a minute, so there was some connection breakup. Okay, so what I was saying is, as you have understood, even in the respective business I am in, respective industry or whatever industry I'm part of working with, I might not have information to every single data which I need. So I always have to understand the boundaries in which I am working in. So the problem statement also needs to be very much understood based on whatever resources I have at my disposal. Very important aspect. Very, very, very important aspect. So let's try to understand things to identify a business problem or a problem statement. First, we need a domain knowledge. So what do we mean by a domain knowledge, guys? Let's try to understand this. So when I say a domain knowledge, that prominently means what kind of information I have on that industry. So when I say that I'm working for a financial institution and I know that my pain point is, say, might be the revenue generation. So yes, holistically, I have the domain information. If I know that the revenues are not getting generated, there might be a lot of reasons behind that. There might be, FD accounts are not generating funds, or maybe overseas accounts are having some problem. There could be defaults in my loans. There could be salaries to my employees. A lot of things are there. And unless and until I am not very familiar with the domain which I'm part with, I might not know these inner details and the requirements which I have in terms of domain knowledge part. So yes, coining out a problem statement, coining out what exactly I need to do to solve that particular pain point, I need to have the domain knowledge. So domain knowledge is one of my important key skill sets which is needed to coin a problem statement. Second, we talk about the data knowledge. Again, a very crucial aspect of this. I can do wonders if I have everything in my hand. But is it always possible to have everything in hand? Absolutely not. And that is where you need to understand your boundaries quite well, right? What can you get? What is needed? And whether can you have it or not? That is something you need to be very clear on. So data knowledge, which can eventually lead to the solution of your problem statement, is very important. So domain knowledge along with the data knowledge together plays an important role in coining out my problem statement. So we will be going in detail of my domain knowledge and the data knowledge together. So let's start with my domain knowledge. First of all, you have to always understand, when I say a domain knowledge, it is always advantageous that if you are from that domain from day one. Like for example, I am from XYZ industry. Suppose I am from a manufacturing industry for now. Although I have, say, 15-20 years of industrial experience, but I have been working in some other domain. I've been working in, say, healthcare industry for past 15-20 years. But being into data science industry, you still have a leverage to change your domains because you're ultimately working on data and data is everywhere, right? So what if you made a switch from healthcare industry after having a 15 years of healthcare industry experience to, say, manufacturing industry, right? So do you think you will be able to solve everything on day one? No. There will be challenges. You will get problems to understand the technical jargons as well. So when I say a domain knowledge, yes, it is always advantageous for a person who is from that respective domain. It will be comparatively easier for them to kind of intuitively relate to the problem statement and come to a discussion phase quite easily compared to a person who is not from that domain. So, but does that mean the person who is not having that respective domain knowledge cannot coin out a problem statement? No. So always you have to keep in mind, being a domain expert is not at all mandatory to define a problem. Yes, it is always advantageous, always helpful, but never mandatory for you to define a problem statement. Okay, so that being said, if you are new to a domain area, what we are expected to do? We are supposed to do our ground homework. Perfect. That means we're expected to do our research. And ideally, we are supposed to talk and connect with people who are actually solving those problems. and we call them as subject matter experts. So every industry have their respective SMEs. We call them as subject matter expert. So a right guy or a good data science guy is a person who is able to talk out the problems, who is able to talk to the right people and get the inner details of your problem statement. So you need to gather the information, you need to do your own ground homework, and you need to do your research, and ideally should be connecting with people who are actually solving those problems, not from a data perspective, but from the domain perspective. Like for example, when I say for a healthcare industry, I need to find out whether the person is having a disease or not. So who are my subject matter experts? My doctors, my lab technicians, doctors who are kind of looking at the symptoms, lab technicians who are generating the reports, right? So I am expected to talk to these people who are the subject matter experts and who are the frontline people who are actually solving those problems, not from a data perspective, but from a domain perspective. So doctors may be from a healthcare industry, or maybe the network engineers from a telecom industry, or maybe plant engineers from a manufacturing industry. So they are on ground people who are actually dealing with those problems day in and day out. And from the data perspective, you are going to look at those details superficially. You're going to look at details on a broader level. So yes, always advantageous if you have the respective domain knowledge. But that being said, it is never mandatory for you to have a direct relevant domain experience. Always advantageous, I will never disagree to that, but it is never 100% mandatory thing for you to have a domain knowledge on your own to define a problem statement. But yes, you need few if and buts there. You will not be able to understand it straight away. But with an active research, with an active connection to the right set of people, talking to a lot of people, understanding the areas, trying to look out for the technical jargons, you will be able to understand it. So awareness is mandatory. You are supposed to be aware of what's happening around. If you are not aware, if you're not being aware, if you're not able to understand something, if something is beyond your own capacity, so you have to talk out to the right people, you have to look forward to the right subject matter experts and get a clarity of the subject that is very much required. And that is where domain knowledge comes into picture. Right? So for instance, suppose if you want to solve a problem about homelessness in your city. Just for an instance, suppose you want to solve a problem about homelessness in your city, but you don't know much about it. And you have never experienced homelessness yourself. So you should look for some insider knowledge before defining your problem statement. So folks working at homeless shelters, organizing non-profits or otherwise trying to solve similar problems will have a wealth of knowledge and may be able to help make sure you are embarking on a useful, actionable mission. Very important, guys. So the problem statement which is in front for you right now, I'm looking to solve a problem on homelessness in my city, for example. And I have personally never experienced it, and I have no idea, no clue whatsoever about it. I have no idea how many homeless people are there, whether they have got shelters or not, what are they eating, are they going back after a few days, or is it happening so frequently? I do not have answers to these questions. And it could be many such questions. So to be able to solve this problem clearly, I should look for some insider knowledge before even defining my problem statements. It's always advisable to talk to my subject matter experts. And in this area, who are my subject matter experts? Maybe talking to the right people working at homeless shelters, people who are organizing some non-profit units, and others who are still trying to solve this problem statement in their own respective ways. So these are the people who will have an enormous wealth of knowledge, which will definitely help you to coin out or embark on your useful, actionable mission. Because it's so easy to get deviated from my main point, which is like the crucial problem statement which I'm trying to solve, to multiple other different directions. But with the right set of information, I can make sure that I am getting embarked into something which is more like a useful, actionable mission for me. So domain knowledge going to play a very crucial role in this case. So I need to understand what I'm getting into. And if I'm not aware of that domain, always make sure that you are going to talk to your subject matter experts on that area. Second, very important part of coining out a problem statement is data knowledge. Again, a very crucial part, guys. So we always talk about domain, but at the same time, data is also very, very important. I need to be very sure what are my boundaries. Suppose if we clearly define a problem statement and intend to collect the data which is needed to solve the problem yourself, we could design our data collection methods to perfectly align to your question. Right? If we do not even know what data might be required to solve this problem statement, how can I actually collect the data? So the moment I have a problem statement handy with me, I am intended towards collecting the data which can relate to that problem statement and can help us solve the problem statement. So yes, collection of my data again become very important here in this case. So when I say defining my problem statement, then on top of this, I intend to collect the data which I have. Or alternatively, when we are working with the found data, we are limited by the biases or the caveats of the data collection methods which are being used. I'm limiting my thoughtfulness there. So understand one thing. I have a problem statement which I'm trying to solve. And for that problem statement, there could be two approaches for the data which you might need. But even before that, you need to understand what data you need, what exactly you need, which can help you to solve that problem. Correct? And from that perspective, if I say, I need to clearly understand whether that data is already available, or am I limiting my thoughts based on only the available data, or am I still intended to collect the new information which might not be available right now, but still we have a potential technical competency or the availability of my data which can be leveraged to solve this business problem. Both the approaches are absolutely fine. But yes, first prime requirement is we need to understand what do we need, and if we have the clarity of thoughts, we can absolutely design the methods which can be used to collect the data which could be available in multiple other different sources. And these sources could be a web. I can web scrape the information. This could be a different database altogether residing in some other data warehouse. I can talk about extracting that data. maybe a respective new format of my data altogether. It could be anything. I should have the right methodologies to collect this information. Or alternatively, when I say that I'm working on the found data, yes, in that scenario, I am limiting my thoughtfulness. I'm being more biased towards my data collection strategies. So I am only using the information which some other person might have used in their own thought process while they were collecting the data. So based on their own requirement, they might have collected the information and might have missed out some additional information which might be useful for you, right? So both the approaches has their own pros and cons, which we have to keep in mind. But some things you will always want to make sure while understanding your data. First, how can we use the data? When I say how can we use the data, we need to understand how it is directly related to, or directly or even indirectly related to, my problem statement. So what are my key areas which I'm supposed to focus on, and how exactly this can be used to coin out or to solve my business problem. So that knowledge is very important. How am I going to use this information for my problem solving purpose? Second, how was the data collected? When I say data collected, what was the granularity of my data? Is it like per minute data, per month data, if it requires time, or per hour data, or per year data? And if the methodology involved was something wrong, maybe it's like a web scraping information, I could have some junk values in my data. So having a clear information of how this data was collected also clarifies a lot of last moment issues which can arise from a junk information. So if somehow my data involves people, so who are these people? Some demographic information about these people, right? Or if there are any left outs, so who are these left outs? How have we sampled these people? What is the sampling strategy? Have we collected the entire population data? Or is there any ethical concerns over my data? Can I actually use, do I have a consent to use this data? So all of this becomes very important the moment I try to coin out my problem statement. Having a detailed understanding of these respective areas for your data is going to help you out understand the problem statement which should be there to address this, right? And at last, we talk about how we can create it. So remember, the process of creating your own problem statement is iterative. So we may go through each of the above steps a few times, like it's more like an iterative process. So at the end of the day, I am still saying that the pain point which I have, it should be rightfully solved. It should, my problem statement should rightfully address the pain point which I'm trying to look at. Also, it involves the right questions which is supposed to be asked at the right time. So we are never advised to jump into a problem statement straight away. Rather, thinking it from a holistic view, thinking it from more from an iterative approach, where we're trying to understand the problem statement, the pain point which is I'm trying to solve, and the respective information of my domain, along with the information of the boundary which is there with me for the data, is going to give me the rightful information where I can coin out my problem statement. So make sure we are truly understanding the pain point, making sure that we are addressing the pain point, and based on this, I am identifying my problem statement. And as I've said, it is very important to talk to the right people. It is very important to actually truly understand. And by understanding, we have to always realize that asking the right questions become very important. So we have to make sure that we have to ask the right questions at the right time. And that is where it is going to have the clear impact on creating of your problem statement. Cool. That's it, guys. So this is what I intended to cover today. It was a very crucial topic because most of the time it happens like in academics, we always talk about solving some project. So you have the data with you, you have already the problem statement, but the moment you start solving some problem in any industry, that's where we fell into the trap of identifying the problem statement. So it's still not that simple to identify a problem statement straight away for you in this case. So you have to always understand that it is advisable for you to first read out and understand the problem statement and do an iterative approach to ask the relevant questions with your SME, subject matter experts, and even if you have the domain knowledge, you can still talk to them and then understand how you can help the business in the best way you can. So guys, I'm open to questions. Anything specific which you want to ask, this is the right time. We can discuss about it, guys. So cool. I hope that makes sense to everybody. As always, I'm all open to all the questions. So please feel free to reach out. But since we don't have anything right now, so we can wrap it up. So thank you so much for being patient and listening to me. So with this, I'm going to wrap up this session. See you in the next video the other day. So, and then we're going to talk about something really interesting in that class as well. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye.